Hi everyone. Our project was on the rise in insulin prices. And a belief that is held by a large number of Americans is that the rise in the price of insulin is caused by the increase in number of the people diagnosed with diabetes. Evidence that this belief is held by a large number of Americans is that diabetes is one of the most prevalent and costly chronic diseases in the United States. In 2011, it was estimated that 20.8 million US adults lived with diabetes, and about 1.5 million new cases of diabetes were diagnosed. Diabetes is not only detrimental to the health and productivity of those who suffer from it, but also incurs substantial economic burden to them and to society. However, in reality, over the next several slides, we will provide evidence that the insulin market is not properly regulated. Allowing an increase in price of insulin is caused mostly by middlemen in the healthcare market, driving up the price for their own benefit.
The first piece of evidence that supports this argument is that much of the profit generated from is generated by increasing costs of insulin that comes from lack of regulation in the drug market. According to Errol B. Hirsch, a faculty member at the University of Washington School of Medicine, high insulin prices are, quote, mostly as a result of the US healthcare system's willingness to pay for modest differentiation and its acceptance of repeated price increase. Hirsch goes on to explain that the mechanism for this rapid increase comes from manufacturers and middlemen releasing new drugs onto the market. These drugs are slight improvements with higher price than the increase in production costs. Doctors then do not feel comfortable prescribing an effective but older drug, so they prescribe the slightly improved version at a much higher price. Manufacturers continue to flood the markets with these new drugs because they are not properly regulated, and more restrictions on how pharmaceutical companies can release new versions of drugs would slow price increases in the United States.
Our second piece of evidence is that since the drugs aren't properly regulated, it allows pharmaceutical companies to set very high prices. And additionally, the middlemen that work for these drug companies determine how much of the cost is covered by insurance or not. And this allows them to make more of a profit. And a quote from CBS News is the US doesn't regulate drug prices, which has allowed pharmaceutical companies to set very high prices. But it said some of the blame sits on pharmacy benefit managers or PBMs. And these are powerful middlemen that work in the healthcare market, and they determine which drugs are covered by insurance. And this graph shows that in 2014, the PBMs received a small percent of the overall cost of the drug, but in 2018, the amount they received is much greater.
Our third piece of evidence comes from an article from time.com. It states that middlemen are the connective tissues that make life as we know it possible, yet in the process of connecting, they also stand between and separate, blinding both sides to the impact of their actions on others, often contributing to a host of problems, including dangerous contractions of power, fakery, and inequality, alongside those sky-high prescription drug prices. This is disgusting and showing how much power these middlemen companies have and providers and what the providers really have and what they can control in the financial aspect of things. Also, it states blinding both sides so that it shows that they are solely creating these prices for their own benefit.
The reasons people have this false belief is that over time, as insulin prices have gone up, the obesity rates in the US has also increased. So there's a physiological connection between being overweight and developing diabetes. But being overweight develops type 2 diabetes, not necessarily type 1. So that is another false belief on top of that. But manufacturers and other stakeholders benefit from higher list prices, and then insulin manufacturers set prices based on whatever the market will bear, not based on the demand for their products, as said by Dr. Jing Lao. And while high demands of the product normally causes prices to rise, this is not the case with insulin. There's not a problem producing insulin, nor is it and only a set amount allowed to be made. Because like 100 years ago, you had to like say goodbye to a lot of pigs and extract the insulin from their pancreases, but now it's all done in a lab, but prices have gone up from that. And some other questions that my group had about this topic was just, what is being done about this? And so in Montana, there was a they were the first state to cap the price of insulin at $100. And then Biden, right now, President Biden is trying to work with the company Eli Lilly to set the cap for $35 a month for insulin, which is great because normally it's hundreds of dollars, even with insurance. And then, do insulin prices vary between types of insulin? There are many types of insulin. There is fast acting and slow acting. Fast acting, you have Novolog, Humalog, and FASP. And then slow acting, or also known as long acting, you have Tresiba and Lantus. Usually, so all the insulin prices are going up, but there's a higher demand for fast acting insulin because that's used by people who use insulin injections as well as insulin pumps. And then the long acting insulin pump users don't usually use that. They just use the fast acting. And there's also a insulin type called Ozempic, which is approved to be used by type 2 diabetics, but type 1 diabetics also use it to help manage their blood sugars. And as the price has gone up and it's less accessible, unfortunately, the main side effect of it is nausea and reduced appetite. So celebrities are now using it to lose weight, and they don't need it for their medical needs, but because of that, there is less product to even access for people that actually need it. And is this happening to any other drugs? Yes, this is happening to people who need EpiPens. The price in EpiPens have gone up. So it seems like they're targeting people that, need these drugs, can't live without these drugs. And, we can't do so much. We can't really do much about it because we need these, so we have to pay for them, even though the prices have gone outrageously high. But if you guys have any other questions, please refer to the American Diabetes Association website. It is linked below. Thank you. And here are our resources. Okay. And does that stop share?
The pilots.
How do you stop?